You're listening to Fish Out of Water, the podcast where feeling out of place becomes the start of something new. Dive in with us. Let's explore stories, insights, and real conversations that help you swim forward with purpose.
Welcome, everybody. Today we are talking about swimming upstream, why growth feels so risky. So we often assume that others see our growth the way that we experience it. But in actual reality is that most people are they only feel comfortable with how they knew us. So they only recognize a version of us that we were before that serves their comfort. And this is kind of a little controversial. I think some of you guys are already going, whoa, but stick with us because we got a lot to dive into today. So, Bret, we have this course called Unshakeable You that really dives into helping people understand their core competencies. We've talked about it in previous conversations, and today we're going to talk about that, right? So, what is so great about Unshakable You is it puts you in this scenario with other people who are going through this growth experience as well. And so there's opportunity to share, experiences, share insights, ask questions and learn from each other as much as from us in this course as well. So let's dive into the rise portion of the core competencies today. All right. So can you start off by taking us through the 4 competencies?
So when we're unpacking the idea of how we show up, what we're working on is we're working from one of 4 unique and then somewhat combined where the streams get a little bit crossed with our support structures within our kind of psyche, social, the social, psychological, and the behavioral, like this triune bleeding into who we are.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I love about the temperamental process is that this is in fact an in utero development. So this is not necessarily an external process that is defining, creating, or refining you. This is something that's coming right from the depth of who you are, even before you've taken your first breath. And the idea of finding this anchoring is so critical to how we show up, how we measure what it is that is kind of in our heart and in our being and what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's a thing, a relationship, project, just this collaborative experience. And how do I become fully me in the midst of where I'm showing up? And so we essentially have 4. So we have the reflective, and the reflective kind of falls into this category where they're moving with a depth of discernment. I was going to say deception. That's kind of weird. Moving with the depth of discernment, where I think that one of the challenges when we talk about discernment is a lot of people immediately move to a spiritual, when I don't think this is necessarily a spiritual endowment. I think that this discernment is the knowing the right way to go, left or right, straight or back. And then this individual will bring a thoughtful clarity that's communicated with care. And I think this is what really separates the reflective individual. When we get into the intentional style, this person is moving almost exclusively at the relational level, and there's 2 that move relationally, but this particular intentional person is moving at relational fun. Their focus is on the excitement and the energy that they're deriving from being in and around people. They will often be the heartbeat of a room. They can figure it out really quick and then immediately take it to the next level. They just are bringing a natural energy and a flow, which is at times overwhelming, but at other times so crazy necessary depending on our situation or our circumstance.
I remember you said one time, sorry,
No,
just about
please.
the intentional style, how I always remember this is that, that's the person when you meet them and you're in their presence. By the end
Mhm.
of the 2-minute conversation, you feel like their best friend, but then they're on to the next person, making them feel the same way too. And you're like, oh, what about me?
Well, and I think that, and using that process, we then begin to question the authenticity of what that person is bringing, when in fact they are being as whole themselves as the reflective style might be in in a more reserved, thoughtful approach.
Hmm.
Both are bringing this authenticity to who they are
Hmm.
when they're empowered and free to be fully tuned to themselves.
Right.
And I think that the real power comes when there's this the supportive tendency or the supportive structure exists, that almost is like knitting or creating the tapestry, pulling the threads of relationships together, and that there is this um what I'm thinking, like the mother hen kind of scenario. It's the
Cluck clucking.
individual, yeah, but it's the individual that just seems to know where everybody is. I mean, I don't even know where my ducks are, let alone be in a row. Like, this is not my forte. I'm simply just trying to move kind of out and forward, but there is this person that is so necessary for me, and it's that supportive structure. It's the person that is pulling all those threads together, as I was mentioning. And what they're doing is bringing this calm, steady approach.
Right.
That's just a renewing context of where the relationships sit.
Hmm.
Their renewal comes in the space of ensuring that we're still on the right track, still moving down the right road.
Hmm.
And then our last tendency, or our last kind of style, falls within the empowerment place.
Right.
Now, the empowerment process is quite literally happening across all of them, but this is the external voice.
Mm.
Now, a lot of times we will misrepresent this as the only leadership in the room, because they'll tend to be the loudest, they'll tend to be the most concise, they'll have a clear direction of the path they want to walk. But and I had it described to me once. I sit in the empowerment category, and I had it described to me once this way. It says, we love your vision, we love what you're doing, but you're out on a walk and no one is following you. And that tends to happen. That
Hmm.
there's this inability to then pull people in behind you. And this is where, when we talk about Unshakable You and we talk about finding your space, we really want people to lean towards the plurality of leadership, not the exclusivity of leadership.
Right. And any one of these temperaments show up in leadership, right? And it's understanding your
Yes.
strengths. Something that goes along with this course too is the relational aspect of how we interact with others as well. And so, I mean, you can be a high D, but your ways of relating to people through words of affirmation, which that takes things to a different space than someone who um, just kind of shows up to give quality time or acts of
Mm-hmm.
service. Um, but one thing that we want to stress here is that this stuff is already in you. You started off before you started talking about the actual temperaments that, this is stuff that's already in you. And I really wanted to stress that because um, nothing that we're talking about is creating anything new in you. If anything,
Mm-hmm.
it's opening you up like a flower. Maybe some guys won't like the analogy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's opening you up so that people can see the beauty of who you are already inside. We have the tendency, all of us, to mask. And this is, what we're working on and what we're offering through Empower You is an opportunity to open up and be authentic and who you really are and not what you think other people expect you to be, or what you need to represent. You're the only one that you need to represent. And when you are authentically you, it's not a matter of who else is behind you or you're representing, because we talked about loyalty and alignment in the last episode. And,
Mm.
that comes into you being authentically you in alignment with whoever you're involved with, right? Whether it's an
Mm.
organization, person, whatever group, and so on. And so I just wanted to throw that in there, right?
Yes, and
So,
I think that one of the core elements as to why we somewhat redefine the wheel, in that we live in a generation that has not developed the vulnerable state that's necessary
mhm,
to function in this plurality context. I mean, we adapted this from a bunch of different kind of components, but I would say that the main structure of it comes from the DISC leadership profiling.
right.
And so then in the DISC concept, we have the D, the I, the S, and the C. And so this is the quadrant component
Hmm.
where we wanted something that kind of communicated those as an element, but we wanted the empowerment of what does it mean to actually work on a team. And so we played, we focused, we kind of thought through it, we wrestled with it, and came out with Rise. And so to look at each one of them, the reflective is really like the high C, the analytical, they are the task oriented person, but in the quietness of isolation. The I didn't change. The I is still influential as the outgoing, fun loving individual, and the supportive is the steady. It is that we wanted there to be this team culture in the supportive phrase, rather the steadying as in only in themselves or
Hmm.
only in their very small collective. And one of the bigger swaps that we made was the high D, in the confusion of being the A type personality.
Hmm.
And A can have a number of different acronyms added to it, but we wanted there to be at the end the empowerment component. We
Right.
wanted this particular individual to not necessarily always be leading from the front, but to what does it mean to pull back a little bit, to bend the knee almost, and lead from within?
Hmm.
Lead from the space where we are not the only, but we are one of. And 2 episodes ago, I kind of brought up the topic of gaps. And I think
Yes.
that the thing that I have struggled so deeply with in most of the self-help industry, the book, buy this, take this course, do this, do that, was this: there was not a lot of group context or group work.
Hmm.
And that when we're not in cohort, when we're not in community, I don't think we get the best version of who we can be.
Hmm.
I think we can learn all of the tendencies of who and what my strengths are.
Hmm.
But if I don't know how my gaps are interacting with somebody else's strengths,
Hmm.
I don't learn vulnerability and I don't learn humility. I don't learn that I'm the only voice in the room. Excuse me. I kind of sit in this space where I am now trying to be all things to all people.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who uh, would benefit from it simply because um, you know, society, especially since COVID, has exponentially grown to this place of unhealthy interaction.
Mhm.
How many times are you standing in line? This question is not for you because I know what your answer would be, but you and I are those people who will stand in line and somehow start a conversation with people around us. But there's a lot of people who that is not a normal thing for them. They
Mhm.
don't know how to talk to strangers. I think it was Diary of a CEO that I was watching the other day. I don't recall the name of the guest, but she was talking about that very thing where people don't know how to interact with strangers. And the only time they do is when it's like this, things are blown up and, they're angry or aggravated. And so everything seems like an attack as opposed to, hey, how's your day going? Do you mind just like stepping over so that I can pass by? Like things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's this opportunity in the group cohort really presents the opportunity to learn to talk with strangers, learn
Mhm.
who you are inside in a place where it's like fresh ground, right?
Hmm.
Because nobody knows you in the cohort unless you're signing up with a friend.
Hmm.
But it's a fresh ground. So there's no initial judgment of who you are. You can come in and it's like blank slate,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
I mean, and I think that even if we were, if even if we did have a dedicated cohort that was like a small friend group that
yeah,
really had a mission or had a vision to do something really interesting, I
yeah,
think even that would take them to a much higher place or a much higher level of kind of the structure of their relationship and their identity.
yeah.
Because even in the friends concept, we don't very often go, hey, that's not my thing. This is
Mm-hmm.
my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as we look at what is the role that gets inhabited. I mean, I suck at weighing pros and cons. I am terrible at it. I just want to go. I just see the thing and I want to do it. So
And I'm like,
then,
wait a second, Brett.
yes, that has happened, right? And
Sorry, yeah.
the anchoring, right? So like you quite literally become the anchor. Well, then simultaneously, I'm lifting your anchor up. Let's go. Let's go and
Yeah.
do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it becomes this pairing where some, even our friends group, don't necessarily pair very well. Or it's not that they don't pair very well, they don't know how to pair very well. I think a lot of my work happens within the sports culture. And so I'm working with teams, small and large. And I mean, I've worked with teams of like 5, 6, 7 people in an esports setting that absolutely despise one another.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't stand each other. And the vitriol comes out in their game comms and the unique struggle that each individual has because they don't know what they don't know, but then they
Yeah.
don't know the impact
Yeah.
of what they're pushing and what they're stressing.
Yeah, it's
And
fair what
so,
you're saying. Sorry, I'm totally interrupting.
hmm,
Please keep
no,
going.
no, 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 you're good. I think that the motivation, when we get down into the motivation component,
Mm-hmm.
is what is each unique person ultimately after,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can then go, oh, the reflective person really wants to see clarity and accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
They need that almost
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And when we're moving too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
accuracy then becomes a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so at the kind of the midway point, I was talking about the empowered individual kind of slowing down a bit so that the reflective can get caught up. So both
Yeah.
of these are task oriented people. So they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be good communicators with each other right off the
Mm-hmm.
start.
Mm-hmm.
But one has the responsibility to the other to slow down, while
Yeah.
the other one has the responsibility to say, I need you to slow down.
And that's just it, is that in the Unshakable You thing, it's really important for people to have this place to really um grasp this idea of it's okay to say, hold on, wait a second, I don't know that this is for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I talked about masking earlier. We've got to come to this place. If you're going to be authentically you, we've got to come to this place where we don't need to fake it to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You just need to be who you are and become fluent in the parts of yourselves that you haven't let out yet and let other people meet. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for many of us, in doing that and in finding those things that are already within us as strengths, we might actually be surprised with how some people do react to it because it can be hugely positive. Because the mask has been taken off. It's like, oh, there you are. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. Good to meet you. That kind of idea. And so, in terms of talking about the tools that Rise offers you is, it gives you not parameters, but it gives you this set of like, okay, this is who I tend to be. Now, it's not to say all of us are like only for, temperaments, in terms of personalities. Temperament and personality completely different.
Hmm.
Um, so we're talking about the temperament part, not the personality and the soul of who you are, but from the perspective of temperaments, each temperament understanding who you are, what your temperament is, versus the temperament of the person you're dealing with. Um, there's some tools that become available here, right?
Hmm.
So, how does that, you've described it as like uncovering your inner compass, right?
Hmm.
How would you describe that to folks for each of the temperaments in terms of like that snapshot that people can like, how do I remember this? Or
Well, and I think that the way in which we created Rise, we structured the just simply the titles of the acronym around the identity.
yeah,
That the in comparison, the reflective was somebody who really wants to analyze, but they want to analyze to build clarity. They're
right.
not trying to analyze to build a roadblock. That there's still the longing and the desire to be in movement or motion, but they're not trying to be resistant, but a lot of times they're not heard well.
Yeah,
So then it becomes resistant because people are moving too quickly.
right.
Or the intentional is showing up big, loud in the room, and they've got all the energy, and we're assuming, or there's an assumption made that we have to go, we have to go, we have to go. But it's, hang on, we need to be a scalpel, not a hammer.
Yeah,
And so as we work with the intentional leaders, we're wanting those people to refine the direction that we're moving, because we can't touch everything, even
yeah.
though
You
that
need
would be
that
the
map.
longing desire, right? We need a
Oh yeah,
roadmap.
the intentional will just go driving and worry about the map after they've gotten on the road, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And they don't even realize they're in the wrong country. Who knows?
But
And
my sister's there. God love her. She's like that free spirit who just wants to take you on an adventure. And I'm always like, no, I need a map. I need that safety, right? Which
yes,
you're getting to with the supportive, right?
well, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
And not only is the safety centering for themselves, but it is building safety within the relational construct.
yeah,
And we've already kind of broken down the empowered as that autonomy driven, the person that is looking for the result, looking for, and achievement is a bigger word, but I don't think it's unfair, but it's not in isolation. A lot of times, because we have not learned how to use the vulnerable
mhm,
conversation around gaps, we tend to see all of these leaders in isolation, and we only talk about their weaknesses.
right. Yeah, uh,
And this tool that we have developed is designed to encourage you to have a healthy conversation about the gap. I had a dear friend of mine. She's an extraordinarily qualified professional soccer coach. And she got hired by a team. And in the interview, she said, I'm going to be able to do this, this, and this with excellence, but I'm not going to be able to do this. And they gave her all of the things that she does not do well
uh,
as her primary focus.
yeah,
And it was in this very quick spiral down where she was ultimately removed as the head coach of the team, not because of her failings, but because the inability to acknowledge and understand the gaps.
yeah. She wasn't heard, and thus set up for failure from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the folks realized it or not. We've all, I think most of us have grown up uh, being told, like, work on your weaknesses, work on your weaknesses. You got to get better at this. You got to be, all around, this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that it doesn't serve ourselves because it brings on unnecessary stress. Sometimes it brings on this inner focus, like I have to do this, I have to do this, and it
Hmm.
really draws away from that team aspect. I mean, I think even from a family perspective, if we really wanted to go there, in terms of a husband and wife and who's doing what and how they operate together and what is her strengths versus his strengths or whatever. Um, it's it we really want to help people come back to this centering on this is who I am, this is what I'm good at. Are you, in this team environment, whatever that looks like, what are your strengths? Let's see how we can use each other to build this amazing thing, whatever that thing is. And it's exciting when I think about it. I know we're talking a lot about ideals, but that doesn't mean that these ideals are not possible. Um,
Hmm.
I've been in many situations where start out with a bunch of strangers at the beginning of a school year, and at the end of the school year, we're like the regional champs, and we did not stand a chance at the beginning of the year.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's been done. We're not doing anything new here.
Hmm.
But we're trying to package it in a way that's simple and easy to swallow for people.
Hmm. And I think that in addition to and I think we're already probably at the cap for this episode, and we're barely scratching the surface. I think a part two is going to be essential, and I'll drop this teaser for the next part, is that being able to not only identify yourself, but witness and see the strength in others, even when they may not be able to. So
Hmm.
then you know who you need to partner with. What are the types of people that the empowered needs in their life? Now, maybe there's the support context where you have your empowering X. Like, what is that empowering look like? So then who is the most ideal person to draw to that in business partnership, romantic partnership, family dynamics? How are we pulling all of this together so that it's strength on strength?
Thanks so much, guys, for joining us this week on Fish Out of Water. It's Brett and Lisa signing off. Hope you have an awesome week.
See you in the next episode.